There are days when life seems to revolve at the same pace as always, but inside, everything shifts. You get up, make coffee, look out the window, and realize the world has moved on. But inside you, there's an echo of silence, an emptiness. Difficult to name. Since he's gone, you feel like you've lost more than a presence. You've lost a reference, a mirror, a floor. The house is still there. The furniture hasn't moved, but the atmosphere is different. Longing takes shape in the details. The towel he used to use, the show you watched together, the empty space on the table. And this longing isn't just for him, it's also for the woman you were when he was around. The one who laughed at silly things, who made plans together, who knew exactly where your love lived. Now, you look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I now that he's gone? And this question, painful as it may be, is also a beginning. The beginning of a journey of reconnection, of acceptance, a reunion with the woman who still exists, even if numb with pain. That's why this video was created. Not to offer quick answers, nor to push you to move on as if everything were simple. This space is a shelter, a symbolic embrace, where your pain can exist with dignity, without haste, without comparison. Here, you don't need to justify yourself. What you feel is legitimate, and grief, however silent it may seem, is a journey that deserves respect. It's not just about longing, it's about identity, about interrupted love, about rebuilding yourself from pieces that don't fit together like they used to. And it's okay if you're confused, tired, or even numb right now. It's okay if everything feels disjointed. Your pain is valid. Your process is unique. And even if it now feels like you've lost yourself, there's something essential within you that remains alive. Something that can, with time and tenderness, find the light again. This is a journey that requires kindness. And that's why we're here, to walk together even if in silence. For the next few minutes, we'll talk about grief, yes, but also about love, rebuilding, and belonging. We'll talk about the woman you were, the one you feel you've lost, and the one who can be reborn. Because there is life after pain, not the same. Not with the same contours, but still, life. With new meanings, new affections, new ways of perceiving yourself. You don't need to be ready to hear this. You just need to be willing to not abandon yourself. Every word here was written with empathy, respect, and the sincere desire that you feel accompanied. Loneliness is one of the hardest parts of grief, but it can be softened when there is sharing, when there is listening, when there is presence. So, allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to breathe with greater awareness. Allow yourself to be, even without certainties. The woman you were hasn't disappeared. She's there, inside, waiting for you to look at her again with love, and that's what we're going to do together. Seek, calmly, compassionately, and wisely. The path back to ourselves when we lose someone we love, especially someone with whom we shared our routines, our dreams, and our silences, it's not just the external bond that dissolves. It's as if part of our very identity is taken with them. Many women who grieve can no longer recognize themselves in the mirror. The image reflected there no longer carries the same eyes as before. The role of wife, companion, caregiver, confidant suddenly disappears, and in its place a blank space remains. A gap, a waiting period. The question, who am I now, is not a passing crisis, it is the lament of a soul trying to reorganize itself. And this reorganization doesn't happen with ready-made formulas. It requires listening. It requires time. It requires permission to be confused, to have no answers, to feel incomplete. Grief is the crossing between what we were and what we still don't know how to be. And in that space between one point and another, everything seems unstable. But this instability, however painful, is also fertile, because from it a new woman can be born with scars, yes, but also with deeper layers of love, wisdom, and presence. You can remember who you were when he was gone. The woman who knew what to make for dinner, who knew your habits, Who organized your medication schedule? Who slept feeling your breathing beside her? And now, what's left? The house remains. The objects are still there. But you feel empty, as if your identity was built on something that no longer exists. This isn't weakness. This is grief. It's a form of grief that isn't limited to longing. It's a loss of self. But even so, something in you remains. Something that may be quiet now, but still breathes. The woman who existed before is still there, shrouded in pain, but alive. And with her, there's room for another version of you to be born. One who will learn to care for herself more gently, to look at herself with more affection, to respect herself on difficult days. This new woman doesn't replace the old one. She honors her. And in doing so, she offers herself the chance to blossom more deeply, with more truth, with more understanding. Because rebuilding yourself isn't about forgetting who you were, but remembering who you can still be. Finding yourself again requires a rare kind of courage, the kind that embraces fear without trying to rush the answer. It's common to feel lost, as if you're walking through a dark house, feeling the walls, searching for a light switch. But little by little, your own actions turn on little lights. Every decision made with love, every choice made mindfully, every moment you choose to breathe deeper, all of this is identity being remade. You may not be able to name the woman who is emerging, and that's okay. She doesn't need labels. She needs space and empathy. Allow yourself to observe what pulses within. You now allow yourself to be multiple, to be inconstant, to be human. Because the woman who asks herself, "Who am I now?" is already making the most important move, searching for herself with sincerity. And this search is sacred. It is made of small reunions of silent forgiveness, of daily affection. The power of kindness turned inward is the foundation of reconstruction. And with it, even in the ruins, it is possible to build a new home for your soul, with open windows and light. After loss, everything seems greater. The silence, the exhaustion, the simple act of getting out of bed. The body weighs heavily, the heart hesitates, and the mind, tired of trying to understand the incomprehensible, enters a state of suspension. In this context, imagining a fresh start can seem like a burden. But reconnecting with yourself doesn't happen with grand gestures, it's born in small ones. In subtle, silent, intimate acts, a first step can be writing. Writing for yourself, for him, or for the void. Writing has the power to organize pain, to give form to what separates. Writing is speaking without interruption. It is giving voice to raw emotion. It is allowing what is tight in your chest to find space. And you don't have to be a writer. Just be honest. You can write what you feel, what you don't understand, what you would like to say if he were still here. And in this flow of words, something begins to reorganize within you. Something aligns, because you are finally listening to yourself. And this listening is the first gesture of love after the fall. Another possible step is to care for something small, something living, a plant, a journal, a corner of the house. What matters is not the size of the gesture, but the intention that moves it. Caring for something outside of yourself can help care for what's inside. When you water a plant, you are symbolically also watering hope. You are saying, there is still life here. This kind of practical, almost ritualistic affection can be profoundly transformative, because it is a way of reconnecting with the present, this place where healing happens. The plant grows slowly, unhurriedly, and requires constancy. Just like your process of rediscovery. And seeing something blossom in your hands can be a powerful reminder that you can too. Reconciliation with everyday life begins like this, with a gesture of kindness, a choice of affection, a conscious decision not to abandon yourself. And in this silent care, you hear your own breathing again. You recognize your own rhythm again. And it is in this new rhythm, that your truest self begins to emerge. If none of this seems possible yet, that's okay. Sometimes the first step is just to stop, breathe. 5 minutes of silence a day. a space of your own where no demands enter, where you can simply exist, not to do anything, not to produce, just to be. This moment may seem small, but it's revolutionary, because it interrupts the cycle of automaticity. It returns you to yourself, even if only for a moment. The wisdom of reunion lives in these intervals, in these pauses where you truly listen to yourself with empathy, with forgiveness, with understanding. The woman you are now deserves this silence, deserves this listening, deserves this care. And in these 5 minutes, perhaps you'll realize there's still a spark alive inside, a force that doesn't need to scream to exist, that doesn't require answers, just presence. And over time, this spark becomes fire. It becomes light and guides you back to yourself with love, with time, and with the silent power of kindness that begins within and spreads, little by little, to everything you touch. Blossoming after loss isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering without losing yourself. It's about continuing to miss someone, but allowing new feelings to emerge as well. And that takes time. At first, it seems impossible. You wake up and everything weighs on you. The silence hurts. His presence is still in every corner, as if love resisted absence. And it does. But over time, if there's space, something new can begin to blossom. Blossoming doesn't happen all at once. It begins like a breath, a sudden urge to open the window, a lighter look at the sky, a song that plays and, instead of tears, brings a half smile, and you realize you're still capable of feeling other things. That the pain, though it persists, no longer occupies everything. And it's in this space, once erased, that life plants seeds. You can blossom in your own way, in your own time. And you don't need to ask permission to do so, nor feel guilty, because the love you experienced with him doesn't end when you decide to live again. It transforms and continues to exist in everything you become. Catherine, for example, was 67 when she lost her partner of 45. For months, she felt like she was just a shadow of her former self. The house seemed hostile, time was hollow, but one day she found a forgotten box with brushes and paints she had never used. It was like opening a memory of herself that had been stored away even before she met the love of her life. Without technique, without haste, she began to paint, first to pass the time, then to listen to herself. And little by little, the sadness began to take shape, color, and voice. Catherine didn't overcome her grief, but she learned to live with it. The walls of the house were filled with paintings. The air began to circulate again. And, most importantly, she began to breathe meaningfully. Again, what had once been only pain became expression, and what once seemed like an end became a new beginning. You too carried dormant memories, desires, and talents. Caring for them can be your garden, and this garden, even cultivated with tears, can flourish. Allowing yourself to blossom is an act of respect for the life that still pulses within you. It doesn't mean abandoning what you've experienced. It means transforming with wisdom, with understanding, with compassion for everything you've faced. There's a beautiful strength in recognizing that even when wounded, you remain whole. A woman who has experienced a great love is also capable of experiencing a great rediscovery of herself. And this rediscovery can become a source of inspiration for you and for other women. Because blossoming isn't about being ready. It's about choosing to care for yourself even when you still feel broken. It's about watering your heart with kindness, about building lighter days, even if they still weigh heavy, and about remembering that pain isn't an obstacle to beauty, but part of its story. You deserve to be happy, not despite the grief, but alongside it, because the love you lost can transform into the love you now offer yourself, and that is blossoming, and that is life. Grief is often a deeply lonely process. There's a feeling that no one, no matter how close they are, can truly understand what you feel inside. You hear words of support, advice, attempts at consolation, well-intentioned, but they don't touch the core of your pain. And so, you withdraw, you fall silent. You learn to cry in secret, to smile politely, to bear the weight in silence. But there's something powerful that can soften this path: sharing. When you meet someone who's also been through something similar, when you read or hear a story that resonates with what pulses within you, something changes. You feel seen, that your pain makes sense, and this identification brings relief. A relief made of empathy, of true understanding, because knowing that other women have also faced this abyss and are somehow finding new ground is like receiving a silent embrace, a breath of hope, a reminder that it's possible to carry on even without having overcome everything. You may think your story isn't important enough to tell, or that no one cares about what you feel, but that's not true. Your experience has value, it has power, and it may be exactly what another woman needs to read or hear. When you write in the comments, for example, you're leaving a trail, a thread of connection that perhaps someone on the other side of the world will find and feel less alone. Sharing doesn't have to be grand. It can be a phrase, a memory, a question, something simple but sincere. And this gesture, however small it may seem, is an act of generosity, of the power of kindness. By sharing your pain, you transform it. It doesn't disappear, but it becomes lighter, more possible. And you transform yourself too, from someone who carries it alone to someone who walks with others, from someone who hides their pain to someone who offers support. The cycle of healing feeds on this invisible network of affection, of outstretched hands, of silent listening, and of words spoken with an open heart. This is what this space we're building together is for, so that you know there's room for your pain, your memory, your hope. When you share, even if it's just a comment or a note in a notebook no one will read, you're listening to yourself more attentively. You're telling yourself, my story matters, and that's healing. Sharing breaks the cycle of invisibility. It reminds us that we are human, fragile, but also strong when we support each other. By sharing your pain, you allow other women to find the courage to share theirs. And in this silent exchange, something new is born: inspiration, reconciliation, compassion. You don't need to have all the words or know how to begin. Just be true. Your truth is enough. And if you feel like it, I'll be here, reading. With respect, with affection, with presence. Because even though we're far apart, we're connected by something greater. The sincere desire to continue living with love, even in the midst of pain. There's a silent pressure placed on those in mourning, to be strong, to maintain composure, to get back on their feet quickly, as if feeling were a luxury, as if crying were a weakness. But it's not. Feeling is an act of courage, of respect for one's own history, of connection with what's most true within oneself. The unfelt pain hides somewhere in the body and soul. It doesn't disappear, it builds up. And one day, it demands presence with anxiety, with insomnia, with a weight you can't name. Feeling is a way of not getting sick inside. It's a way of giving vent to the life that still pulses. Even in the midst of absence, you have the right to cry in the middle of the day, to laugh and then get emotional, to scream if necessary, to remain silent. All these forms of expression are valid. They are the soul's attempts to reorganize what has been shattered. And when you allow this flow, you begin to heal. Because feeling is what keeps us alive. Whole human. Whole human. There is no wrong emotion in grief. There is only denied emotion. And this denial is what hurts. Many women feel guilty for getting angry, for feeling rage, for wanting the pain to end quickly. But these emotions are part of the process. Anger, for example, is the cry of something that was interrupted without warning. It is the reflection of helplessness. Deep sadness, in turn, is the weight of absence, and fear is the reflection of emptiness, of what was safe and is no longer. If you can look at each emotion with understanding rather than judgment, you will realize that they are all trying to protect you. They are saying this was too important to ignore. By embracing anger, you can transform it into action. By embracing sadness, you can convert it into care. By embracing fear, you can seek support. Emotional wisdom resides in this generous inward gaze. And the woman who feels truthfully, even in fragments, is the one who is rebuilding herself with awareness. With affection, with power, it is necessary to create a safe space within yourself to feel, a space where you can say without fear, "I'm not okay today," and where this statement isn't the end, but the beginning of something. Reconciling yourself with your own emotions is one of the greatest forms of self-love, because only those who allow themselves to feel deeply are able to live fully afterwards. You're not here to prove anything to anyone. You're here to get through it, in your own time, at your own pace. And that requires kindness. The power of kindness applied to yourself is the soil where true healing grows. There's no urgency to get well. There's an urgency to allow yourself to be true. And, little by little, with this truth, pain stops being a monster and becomes a companion. Not one you chose, but one you can learn to live with. And with this coexistence, a new strength is born, a new way of being in the world. Feeling doesn't make you weak, it makes you whole. And it's in this wholeness made of pain, love, and presence that you rediscover the path back to yourself. After a loss, finding yourself again can seem like an unattainable challenge. How can you recognize who you are now if everything around you and within you has changed? What once defined your days, the gestures, the conversations, the shared silences, is now absent. And with that, you find yourself lost among memories and obligations. But there is something that survives the loss. Your essence. That silent but firm part that remains even when everything seems to fall apart. The woman you were before hasn't disappeared. She simply retreated. And finding yourself again doesn't happen all at once. It begins slowly, with small signs. A desire to fix your hair, to wear something different, to look at yourself with less judgment. When you decide to listen to yourself with more empathy, you are already in the process of returning. A delicate return made with respect, because finding yourself again isn't repeating what was, but discovering who you are now, with the scars, with the emptiness, with the new courage that grief has silently forged. The woman who decides to reconnect is practicing the most profound act of reconciliation. It's as if she's saying to herself, even without him, I deserve to carry on. And this carrying on doesn't mean erasing the past. It means embracing it, giving it a worthy place in your memory, and moving on with what still pulsates. You can begin this reconnection by looking at what you enjoy, what moves you, what comforts you. Maybe it's cooking an old recipe, walking barefoot, listening to a song from your youth. Maybe it's seeking something new, learning, writing, creating. Every choice made with intention is a reconnection with your soul. The woman who blossoms after loss is not the same as before, but she carries within her the wisdom of the love she experienced and the strength of the pain she endured. And this woman deserves care. She deserves tenderness. She deserves time. By reconnecting, you're not betraying the one who's gone. You're honoring the one who remains. Your story continues. And in this new chapter, there is room for lightness, for discoveries, and for falling in love with yourself. Don't expect this reunion to happen without setbacks. There will be days when everything seems dark again. There will be setbacks, and that's okay. The woman you're becoming is also made of these detours. Embrace your pauses. Embrace your doubts. Rediscovering yourself is like rebuilding a house. After a fire, you know the terrain, but everything needs to be built again, with different structures. And that requires patience, kindness, love. The power of self-kindness is what sustains this process. When you begin to treat yourself with the same affection you offer to others, a healing begins. A healing of self-esteem, of confidence, of emotional autonomy. It's not an easy path, but it's deeply inspiring. And you don't have to be ready, you just need to be willing. One step at a time, one gesture at a time. Because rediscovering yourself, deep down, is remembering that your life still matters, that you, with everything you feel, are worthy of existing fully. And this is the beginning of a new story, yours. When someone leaves, it's not just their presence that disappears, it's the routine that falls apart. The sequence of small rituals, coffee for two, scheduled times, favorite programs turns into silence, and this silence at first is unbearable. Everything seems out of place. The house is there, but devoid of meaning. The day passes, but it's not organized. Tasks lose their logic, and this is natural. Grief disrupts daily life because it disrupts the person experiencing it. But little by little, and with great respect, it's possible to rebuild a new rhythm. Not as before, not with the same references, but based on who you are now. Redefining your daily life isn't pretending nothing happened. It's recognizing that everything has changed and still choosing to continue. Starting in the morning can be a good step, creating a new ritual. Lighting a candle, listening to calming music, making your own coffee with affection. These simple gestures are anchors. They tell the body, we are present. And to the soul, life still has space. The woman who decides to reorganize her routine is practicing a very specific kind of courage. Making time an ally. Because time by itself doesn't heal. But when filled with presence, it transforms. You can start by setting aside time to walk, to write, to simply breathe. You can redefine the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, move a piece of furniture, replace the paintings, open the windows. These external changes are reflections of what moves within. Each choice of reorganization carries a message of care, a choice of affection, a way of saying, I deserve comfort, even in pain. And this comfort is not a luxury. It is an emotional necessity, because daily life is where grief manifests itself. Most subtly in the details, in the gaps, in automatic gestures. Redefining it consciously is a way to regain emotional control, a way to respect yourself, to listen to yourself, to include yourself back in your own schedule with lightness, with compassion, and with the power of kindness applied each day. Creating new habits is a path to reconnecting with life, and there's no need to rush. Sometimes a single gesture can be transformative. Lighting incense at night, leaving a yellow light in the living room, placing a flower in the bathroom. These small decisions made with intention are like seeds. They don't produce immediate happiness, but they prepare the ground for something new to sprout. And when you least expect it, you'll realize you've already created a new version of your routine, more yours, more conscious, more loving. And even if the longing remains, it now walks alongside lightness, comfort, emotional wisdom. Redefining your daily routine isn't about starting over from scratch. It's about giving new meaning to what's left. And in this new meaning, you find yourself anew. The woman who rearranges her days with kindness is telling the world and herself that her life still matters, that her time deserves beauty, that her body deserves rest, and that even after pain, there's room for new meanings. And that's blossoming amidst what's left. What's left. When everything seems to have lost its meaning, pain takes over the space where once there was direction. Longing fills the gaps in routine, and the small joys of everyday life lose their flavor. But within this void, however dark, there is a possible starting point, cultivating new meanings. This doesn't mean ignoring absence or forcing superficial optimism. It means accepting that you now live in a different landscape and that this landscape can also contain beauty. Recreating meaning is an act of empathy with yourself. It's recognizing that, even wounded, your soul remains fertile. A new memory can be born when visiting an unfamiliar place. A new gesture can emerge when learning something that once seemed distant. And each choice that springs from your heart, now more conscious, is a silent response to pain. A whisper that says, I can still be moved by life. And this whisper, when respected, becomes a path. It becomes strength. It becomes reconciliation with the time that remains. It's important to remember that new meanings don't erase the past. They don't replace memories. They add up. They are new roots that grow alongside the old ones, and you can cultivate them. In small rituals, preparing a new dish, rediscovering a forgotten song, planting something in the backyard, visiting a cultural space, The act of doing something different with intention creates points of light amidst the darkness. And when you begin to see these lights come on, one by one, you understand that you can still have experiences that warm your heart. Catherine, for example, discovered painting at a time when nothing else seemed to have color. Other women have rediscovered joy by returning to their studies, by volunteering, by caring for animals. Each woman finds her own symbols, and these symbols become sacred. They are anchors that reconnect her to life. And when you choose to open yourself to the new, even when trembling, you are saying, I authorize myself to continue. This authorization is intimate. It is a vow of love, and it needs to be renewed every day. Perhaps right now you can't imagine what could make you happy again. And that's okay. Inspiration often arises from exhaustion, from silence of time. The most important thing is to allow yourself to feel curiosity. What if I tried something new? Not for the result, but for the experience. The act of experimenting is in itself a recovery of vitality. Each new gesture, each new look, builds a link between who you were and who you are becoming, and this link is made of courage, of acceptance, of emotional wisdom. You are cultivating not only new meanings, but also a new woman within yourself. A woman more sensitive, more present, more connected to the essential. And what is essential now? What touches your heart? What softens your breath? What awakens a faint smile? Identifying these small sparks is already a step. And by nurturing these sparks with affection, with respect, with the power of kindness, you illuminate your own path. And you understand deep within your soul that it is still possible to flourish with stronger roots and a truer heart. There is a silent guilt that sets in when the pain begins to subside. It's as if smiling were a betrayal of the memory of the one who departed. As if enjoying something good would erase the love we once experienced, but it isn't. Allowing yourself to be happy again is actually a way of honoring that love. It's saying, thank you for everything we've experienced. Now I move on with who I've become. Many women after loss enter a state of automatic survival, believing that any joy is a sign of selfishness. But this isn't true. Happiness doesn't erase longing, it coexists with it. The pain may be present, but making room for moments of lightness is a gesture of self-love, of understanding one's own journey, of empathy for the woman who remains. Happiness now will no longer be as it was before, spontaneous, unpretentious. It will be more conscious, deeper, wiser, and perhaps for that very reason, more beautiful, because it is born of the journey of reconciliation with one's own existence. The woman who decides to be happy again is telling the world that her life remains valuable, that beauty is still possible, that pain is not an end, but a passage. And that takes courage, because to allow yourself to feel pleasure again, whether in a hot coffee, a light conversation, or a stroll at dusk, you must authorize yourself to live freely. This authorization is intimate, silent, and delicate. It arises the day you realize that your joy doesn't diminish the love you felt, but transforms it. That it's possible to smile, remembering it, not despite its absence, but because of its presence that remains within you. This awareness generates peace. It generates emotional wisdom, and every time you choose to care for yourself, to choose what nourishes you, what moves you, what warms you, you are rebuilding happiness from within, with affection, with respect, with kindness. And this kind of happiness doesn't need an audience. It's yours, and that's enough. You don't need to be healed to allow yourself happiness. You don't need to have ended your mourning. You don't need to have overcome all the memories. Just be willing to experiment, to observe what still sparks your interest, what still shines, even if timidly. Maybe you'll rediscover the pleasure of cooking or dancing alone, or planning a trip. Maybe you'll discover how much you enjoy helping other women in mourning. Every gesture that focuses on life is a spark of hope, a way of saying, I'm still here. The power of kindness applied to yourself blossoms when you decide to embrace yourself with ease. When you understand that feeling, Good isn't disrespectful, it's reconciliation. And the woman who lives with joy, even after pain, hasn't forgotten. She's matured, and this maturity becomes an inspiration for others. Allow yourself, without rushing. Happiness doesn't need to be complete or constant. It just needs to be genuine. And when it is, you'll recognize it as an embrace from time itself. Saying you are alive when someone we love leaves, love doesn't disappear, it changes address. It ceases to be a physical presence and becomes a memory, a longing, an essence. And for a time, it feels like everything inside us has gone with it. But as the days pass, something begins to happen. This love, previously directed solely at the other, begins to seek other avenues, new ways of expressing itself. You may feel the urge to take better care of yourself, to look at your story with more empathy, to forgive old versions of yourself. This, too, is love. A love that has matured through pain, that has become quieter but also truer. When you sit down to remember it fondly without destroying yourself but embracing yourself, you are transforming love into wisdom, into understanding, into a kind of strength that isn't learned on happy days, but on days when everything was missing and yet you continued. This new love is a kind of light. A light that doesn't erase the darkness, but pierces it with dignity. Loving after loss is an exercise in reinvention. You learn to love with different intentions. You love when you take care of your health, when you listen to your emotions, when you allow yourself to rest without guilt. You love when you decide to transform pain into acceptance. Some women find this new way of loving by helping others in mourning, welcoming family members, writing, creating projects, and redefining spaces. Others simply learn to live with greater presence, with greater tenderness, with greater respect for what truly matters. This new love can be directed toward nature, art, or spirituality. It can reside in the light touch of hands, in the pause to feel the wind, in the silence that no longer hurts but welcomes. Reconciliation with life after grief happens when love ceases to be absence and becomes inspiration. When what you experienced transforms into who you are now. And this transformation is sacred because it carries within it the power of kindness that heals, that connects, that returns you to the world with greater wholeness. You might even think, I don't know if I'll be able to love again, and that's okay. Sometimes love doesn't return in the form of a new relationship. Sometimes it returns as self-care, as compassion, as purpose. The love reborn after grief is deeper. It isn't distracted. It knows the value of presence. It knows that everything is fleeting and therefore more precious. You will love again in other ways. You will love who you are becoming. You will love the small gestures. You will love the silence that now hears you. And this love, built with kindness, respect, and forgiveness, will strengthen you. It will heal you. It will remind you that everything you experienced with him continues within you. Only now, it expands and touches other lives. The woman who loves after pain becomes a beacon, a reference, a source. And even if no one sees it, you will know it, because your heart will feel lighter. And when that happens, look at yourself tenderly and say softly, I have managed to love again. And this is a miracle. It's rebirth. It's true emotion. If you've made it this far, breathe. It's no small thing. Hearing about your own pain, making space for what still pulses, requires a strength that isn't always recognized, but it's there in you. And no matter how much the world has moved on, no matter how much people don't know exactly what to say, I want you to hold on to this truth. You are not alone. Other women have also gone through what you're going through now. Others have also felt lost, confused, exhausted. And they too have gradually found their own paths back. There is an invisible network of affection built in silence but made of real empathy. Each woman who shares her pain helps another carry hers. And this movement is powerful. It is generous. It is sacred. Because experiencing grief with respect is an act of love for those who are gone, but also for those who remain. And you stayed. You are here, breathing, feeling, surviving your own abysses, and that in itself is deeply moving. May this journey you are now experiencing be made with more kindness. May you allow your pain the time it needs. May you not rush nor pressure yourself nor compare yourself. Your story is unique, and the way you rise each day, even without knowing how, is an expression of a silent wisdom that lives within you. Everything you experienced with him still lives within your heart. But now, life also demands a new space, a space of your own where you can rest, create, breathe more lightly. Allow yourself to create this inner space with affection, with forgiveness, with the power of kindness that you so often offered to others, but now need to return to yourself. The pain may have changed everything, but it has not erased your essence. And it is this essence alive, sensitive hold that will continue writing your story. A story of new beginnings, of transformation, of emotional courage, of love that endures even in absence, and that now finds other ways to reveal itself. Before closing, I want to invite you to do something simple yet profound. If you could write a sentence to yourself right now with love and truth, what would you say? Leave it here in the comments. If you like, write as if you were speaking to your best friend, because right now you need to be that for yourself. I'll read them one by one. With the eyes of someone who respects your pain, with the ears of someone who welcomes you without judgment, and with an open heart, as if knowing that the right words can be bridges, may this video have been a shelter, a breath of fresh air, a reminder that even after a loss, life continues to demand passage, and that you have the right hand, the possibility to live it more gently. If this content resonated with you, please leave a like, and if you can, share it with another woman who also needs a reminder. What we feel is real, valid, and can transform us. Because where there is sharing, there is healing. Where there is truth, there is encounter. And where there is love, there will always be a path. You are not alone, never have been, and never will be.